Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Increasing confusion over the best post-Brexit solution for the UK, Irish border, after the government ruled out a proposal for a new frontier between the island of Ireland and also Great Britain. The Republic of Ireland's Prime Minister has reportedly suggested the solution after rejecting Theresa May's proposals, but in the last hour he said the onus is on the UK to propose a workable plan. Well, our senior political correspondent Jason Farrell is joining us now from Westminster. All sides agreeing that something has to be done quickly, but what?
What indeed? That is the problem. We're hearing more and more lines coming out now from the Irish Prime Minister. So first of all, this is Leo Varadkar saying it shouldn't be, there's not been an economic border between Ireland and Northern Ireland. There shouldn't be one. He says there's been little progress made so far. He says that there needs to be progress now before this October crunch point, as he describes it. He's referring there to the EU cut-off point in which there needs to be an agreement over the Northern Ireland border, but also the budget and the rights of EU citizens to remain in the UK and vice versa. So these are the three top things that need to be negotiated. And Ireland really putting this issue on the map today, because Leo Varadkar said, he's reported to have said that perhaps the border should be in the Irish Sea. In other words, that there shouldn't be a north-south border at all. There's been talk amongst the government about having kind of potentially a kind of softer border with kind of technical ways of monitoring traffic going through and pre-registration systems. Basically, what the Republic of Ireland want is a complete reassurance from the British government that there will be free movement of goods and people within the island of Ireland after all these Brexit negotiations. Earlier we spoke to Bertie Ahern, the former Prime Minister of the Republic of Ireland, and here's what he had to say.
The fact there's no security checks, no customs checks, no visibility of any sign of heavy security, no watchtowers. All of these things have been huge achievements of the last 20 years by both governments, by all parties, by all sides. I give credit to everybody. And anything, and if Brexit was one of the things that would drag us back into that, it would be a disaster.
Now, we've been hearing from Philip Hammond. I'll say that again. Philip Hammond. He's in charge, isn't he, while the boss is on holiday? I think I need a holiday as well. And he's been talking about this transitional arrangement between us and the EU and what he means by that.
Well, I think we all need a holiday, don't we? But he, in fact, is trying to hold the fort, as it were. And that, because we know that there is a little bit of division within the government on this, it's very difficult to know what the official government line is. And we often get the odd leak of conversations and things like that. And the Financial Times had a leak this morning from a conversation with business leaders where he was effectively saying that the transition period would be a standstill transition, a kind of off-the-shelf transition, meaning by that there wouldn't be a kind of negotiation around certain aspects of the transition, would basically accept all the conditions of being members of the single market while effectively leaving it. But that means not really leaving it, because you would still have free movement, you'd still be paying into the budget, and you'd still be controlled by the ECG and all the laws around that for a transition period of around 3 years. This is what the suggestion was coming from this meeting. I did speak to Philip Hammond about this morning and put it to him that this had been leaked and what was his response to it, and you can hear what he had to say.
British people will be expecting to find in July 2019 is that they can still get on a plane at an airport and fly to a holiday destination, that they can go to the supermarket and buy French or Spanish produce on the shelves, that they can buy a bunch of flowers that's come in from the Netherlands. So they will expect us to put in place arrangements that allow business to carry on operating normally, citizens to go about their everyday business, jobs and businesses to be protected. And that's what transition is all about, working out how best to get from the status quo today to the new normal with the European Union, with a new free trade agreement that we hope to negotiate with them that will come into force sometime after we leave the European Union.
For now, thank you very much indeed. Thanks a lot, Jason. Let's get more on the Irish border from Southern in Warwickshire, joined by Lord Trimble, the former First Minister of Northern Ireland and leader of the Ulster Unionist Party. Hello to you. Thank you very much indeed for joining us on Sky News this afternoon, Lord Trimble. Ireland needs to be protecting its own interests of its own people in whatever way they deem necessary. Is that fair?
Well, the people in the Republic of Ireland will have certain concerns, but I think they've got to be responsible in the way in which they express them. The suggestion that we see in the papers today that the border should run down the Irish Sea, with Northern Ireland being obviously on the Irish side or on the British side, is something that is completely unacceptable and is simply not going to happen. And furthermore, by raising this suggestion, then this will do enormous damage to the relationships between Belfast and Dublin, which have been quite cordial since the agreement. But if Dublin starts to undermine the essential constitutional basis, which is the heart of that agreement, then they are doing themselves a grave disservice.
What would you propose?
Well, I think what they should do is focus on what they really need. And what they really need is to have a free access to the rest of the European market without tariffs. Now, that is exactly what the British government wants. And what the Irish government should do, if they pause to think, is that they should row in behind Britain in terms of getting tariff-free access to that market. That is the obvious thing to look for, and that involves the least dislocation.
That is understood, but this is a problem that has been caused by the British people, has it not? Am I right in saying that, you know, most parts of the United Kingdom, apart from Scotland, Northern Ireland and London, actually voted in favour of Brexit? That would suggest that Northern Ireland wants to continue to be part of the European Union. So potentially they want to have that.
No, sorry, you're wrong there. People of Northern Ireland might have voted to remain part of the EU in a UK referendum, but they did not vote to leave the United Kingdom. And so people are making a false approach here on this matter. What they should do, and indeed the Irish government should remember, that they joined the European Union on the same day as we did, and they were following, in doing so, their own primary economic interests. They should seriously consider following us out after we both negotiate a settlement region. Unfortunately, they're letting party politics come into play on this. And I do have to say to the new Irish Prime Minister and the new Irish Foreign Minister, they should go away, calm down and look carefully at that agreement that we negotiated, which they did not negotiate because they weren't part of that agreement. They need to go back to that and to think carefully about their obligation to abide by that agreement and not to be seen to trying to undermine it.
You talk about us entering into dangerous territory with this proposed water border, if you will. How so?
Sorry, say that again, please.
You talk about it being dangerous territory that we are potentially entering into. How so?
Well, I said that in the context of the Irish government doing things which appear to be undermining the agreement. They have used the phrase that this somehow will upset the peace process. Now, that is a very, saying in effect, if we don't do this, then the peace process might break down and there'll be violence. I think that's quite wrong and quite irresponsible. There isn't any likelihood of that happening at all. I think it's quite wrong for the Irish Prime Minister and Foreign Minister to be, as it were, threatening to do things. Now, they may think that this strengthens their hand going into the next round of negotiations in October, but it won't strengthen their hand, and what they're doing is going to undermine relationships and make this negotiation a much more bitter thing than it should be.
And where are we, Lord Trimble, as far as time pressures are concerned? We've heard from the chief negotiator as far as the European Union is concerned. He says the clock is ticking. Other suggestions are that these sort of negotiations should be well in hand by now. Where are you?
Well, yes, I mean, this is part of the difficulty. And actually, with a negotiation of this nature, it always starts slowly to begin with, because people have to try and feel out what the views are of the other parties, whether there's any degree of flexibility in these matters. And that, I think, is what we should be doing at the moment. There'll then come a point when people will have to sort of put all their cards, well, to be clearer about where are their red lines, what they're prepared to be flexible with, and then it'll be done as it were, in our own negotiations, it was all wrapped up at the end in a week, but you could not do that until you carefully and patiently explored the details of other people's positions in the meantime. Now, that is what is happening at the moment. Hopefully, things will begin to accelerate, but we don't need to be taken off on a digression with regard to a new border in a different place where we don't want it. That is simply going to waste time at this stage.
OK, good to talk to you, Lord Trimble. Thanks for taking the time. We appreciate it. Thank you.
OK.
Well, our senior political correspondent, Beth Rigby, joins us now live from Westminster, as you can see. Hello to you, Beth. Good afternoon. So, as far as Dublin is concerned, they'd like to see a border through the water, if you will. What's going to happen next?
Well, Kay, the Irish border issue hasn't been that discussed in these early stages of talks, publicly at least. But it really is fast becoming the most intractable of problems. And the reason is, Kay, is that you've got this border, this 310-mile-long border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. And after Brexit, what happens when the Republic of Ireland is still in the European Union and the north of the island is not in the EU anymore? And there's this argument about what you do about the border. Now, I can tell you that the Irish government is unwilling to have a hard border there. And what they want to do, a senior source told me, was to just push the customs union into Northern Ireland and effectively make, as you said, ports and airports the border and make Ireland a seamless entity, if you like. And of course, that's deeply worrying for the unionists, who would see that as somehow an affront, if you like, to them being part of the United Kingdom. Now, the British government's plan was to put some sort of camera checks or tags on vehicles to have a border between the north and the south, but not have a hard border, if you like. And the Irish government have rejected that and said that they will not let it stand. So we are in, if you like, a bit of a standoff. This is what Bernie Ahern, the former Irish Prime Minister, said about the situation on the border. Let's hear what he had to say.
The fact there's no security checks, no customs checks, no visibility of any sign of heavy security, no watchtowers. All of these things have been huge achievements of the last 20 years by both governments, by all parties, by all sides. I give credit to everybody. And anything, and if Brexit was one of the things that would drag us back into that, it would be a disaster.
So there you have Bertie Ahern being very clear that we can't return to a hard border in Ireland. But in terms of a solution, Kay, I have to tell you that everyone I've spoken to say, yes, a solution must be found, but no sense of what that solution might be. And this really matters because the issue of the border in Ireland is one of the three things that the British government have to sort out with the European Union before they can move on to future talks. The other two are citizens' rights and that Brexit bill, the third one being the issue of this Irish border. It appears that we are in stalemate over it, and come October, that could have an impact on whether we can start talking about a future trade deal. So this is politically difficult, economically difficult, and it could also slow up the Brexit negotiations. Hard to see a solution, lots of problems, lots of roadblocks, no clear way through at the moment.
Time will tell, Beth. For now, thank you.